Canada's symbol of progress has become Canada's symbol of progress and dedication. And it's here tonight at Exhibition Stadium on the banks of Lake Ontario that the USA Network brings you another great Wednesday night NASL soccer matchup. It's the high-flying Chicago Sting taking on the hometown Toronto Blizzard. And tonight's match is brought to you in part by Light Beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less. And by Mobil One, the oil that saves you gas and more. And by Toyota, who invites you to see all the 1981 cars and trucks at your local Toyota dealer. Oh, what a feeling to drive a Toyota. Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, Canada, the only time this year the Chicago Sting will make a visit. Or will it be? Because Soccer Bowl 81 will be played here, and the way the Sting is playing, they could be back once again. Good evening, I'm Spencer Ross for the USA Network, along with Alan Troutwig, and we've got a good one tonight because the Chicago Sting, winners of 6 in a row, are in here tonight.
Chicago's tough. It's a David and Goliath type situation here. Chicago, many people feel that they're at the top of the league, and Toronto's flirting with the bottom. Their big gun is Karl-Heinz Grunitzer. What a fabulous left foot this player has. He scored on 2 direct free kicks against the Cosmos not too long ago last weekend, and he missed on a third when it hit the post. He's a fabulous player.
Already has 9 goals this season at 58 in his first 3 years with the Chicago Sting. His counterpart on the other side of the field for the Toronto Blizzard is the man who wears number 11, Jono Sono.
Jomo's really come into his own here in Toronto. He's actually reached superstar caliber. He's scoring goals. He's got 12 points, the only player in double figures in points for Toronto. So he's a big gun for them.
And Phil Parks, who is normally the man who plays goal for the Chicago Sting, had an altercation with Coach Willie Roy in the locker room a couple of weeks ago, and he is now out of the lineup. Paul Coffey takes his place. So a change tonight. Tony Chersky will be in goal on the other end of the field, and right now the national anthem of the United States. Thing this evening, Paul Coffey, and he is a surprise replacement.
His 3rd year with Chicago, and his 1st year with the team, he played over 1,400 minutes last year with the advent of the joining of the Chicago Sting lineup of Phil Parks. He didn't see much action. Now that Phil's situation is up in the air, Coffey's back in. He's great in the air. He comes off the line quickly.
And in goal on the opposite end of the field for the Toronto Blizzard, it'll be the veteran Tony Chersky.
Tony's been around. As a matter of fact, he used to be on the Chicago Sting. One of the things he's most famous for is giving up that goal to Steve Hunt in Soccer Bowl 77, but that's 4 years ago, and he's forgotten about it a long time ago. He's a good, experienced goalkeeper, and it's surprising that his goals against average for Toronto is over 2.2.
We are ready for the opening kickoff, and as you can tell, it is not exactly an ideal day as far as the climate is concerned. Here in Exhibition Stadium, it is an AstroTurf field, and the rain, which was kind of intermittent throughout most of the day, has now turned into a rainstorm at best, as we look at Clyde Best, number 17 for Toronto, who has just joined the team, and he's helped turn Toronto around a bit.
Well, it's getting to the weather. It's the type of night where you want to just sit in front of the TV instead of being out at the stadium, and that's what our viewers on USA Network will get right here.
So we have Chicago in the black jerseys, Toronto in the white jerseys, Chicago in control of the ball. We're in the opening minute of play here at Exhibition Stadium. And Randy Reagan puts it over the line, and Chicago will have a throw-in from the near side.
The referee is Manuel Ortiz, wearing a blue and white jersey tonight because Chicago's wearing black.
Dave Hewson and Rudy Glenn tries to put it in front, but it goes over the line, and Tony Chersky has it. So we're underway here. This is Bruce Wilson, a former member of the New York Cosmos at one time. In fact, he still holds the league record for consecutive games at 161.
Also a former member of Chicago. going back to the referee's jersey, it's Chicago's responsibility to carry around the red tops so that they don't confuse with their jerseys. Somebody forgot something because the referee Ortiz is wearing blue, which is not the normal jersey. He looks like he grabbed a regular game jersey from someone watching in the stand.
Gianpaolo Bonaperti puts it into play, and this is Toronto Blizzard in control of the ball. Sam Lenarduzzi. That's Randy Reagan, and the foul will go against Randy Reagan, number 16 for the Toronto Blizzard.
I think already we've seen the way Chicago is holding onto the ball, dominating play. They're a quick, fast team, and they can attack from anywhere. But they do miss Pato Marhadic, their quick left winger. Pato definitely adds an added dimension of increased speed down the middle to this team, and they are playing without him. He has a pulled hamstring.
Here's Ingo Peter putting it right into the box, and Tony Chersky punches it right out. So, in control of the ball now, the Toronto Blizzard. Number 17 for Toronto coming over is Clyde Best, but Chicago comes up with it quickly. And a free kick for Chicago on the foul on the Toronto Blizzard, and it'll be from pretty dangerous territory.
It was the Turkish defender, Gungor Tekin, who's got the tough job of marking Karl-Heinz Granitza. This is where Granitza is tough.
He just lays it down into the corner this time. Intended for Dave Houston.
Well, the rain is
really
coming down now. It's ripping off the roof of the press box up here.
When we arrived at the park about 2.5 hours ago, it was just coming down rather lightly, but that has changed now. And, of course, it could change the complexion of this game. Chicago with a 6-game winning streak. That is the second longest in the team's history. Ingo Peter in control now. Shot on net and a save by Tony Chersky and a diving one. It'll be a corner kick coming up for Toronto. First opportunity of the game, and Chersky comes up good.
With a good save, but one of the clear examples why Chicago's such a strong team. Peter coming out of the midfield, taking it down to the middle, and not afraid to take a good shot.
And Granitza this time dropping it off for Greg Ryan. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto. Bruce Wilson will play it. Number 24 for the Toronto Blizzard is Julius Sono, the younger brother of Jomo Sono, who gets his first start tonight for Toronto, with Malcolm Robertson out of the lineup. A lot of injuries for this Toronto team. Dave Houston, number 16 for Chicago. Chasing it down is Mielkovic. Ivan Mielkovic to Houston. Randy Reagan tackles it away. And Clyde Best came up with it, but this is the goalkeeper, Coffey.
Clyde Best, one of the two forwards of Toronto. You mentioned Julius Sono, the other. He's really having a tough season so far. He's been unable to get free, and Toronto using the 4-4-2. I really think they should switch to a 4-4-3, a deliberate 4-3-3 to score some goals. They only have 13. Chicago scored 21.
And Chicago, when you have people like, it's easy to do, though, when you have people like Arno Steffenhagen and Karl-Heinz Granitza, who can put the ball into the net.
Like picking, I can't think of a grip, forget it.
Randy Reagan, Houston heads it back. Reagan has it once again. And it's played by Chicago. Arno Steffenhagen, number 6. He's one of the men to watch from his midfield spot. He can score goals. He already has 5 this season. Had 15 last year. And Franz Matthew taps it back to his goalkeeper. We are in the first half, 40 minutes, 23 seconds remaining, in a scoreless game between the Toronto Blizzard and the Chicago Sting. A Toronto team that has played a few teams rather tough, but you would not tell it by the final score. For example, their game against the Cosmos, Al.
That's true. The Cosmos were really under the ropes till about the 70th minute, and then it looked like Toronto died. From my vantage point, it looked like they became tired. Keith Eddy, the coach of Toronto, says no. They lost their concentration, just simply gave up.
They were beating the Cosmos 1-0, and they lost the game 5-1. They were beating Tampa 2-1 with 13 minutes remaining, and they lost 4-3. So something happens in the closing stages. Here's Karl-Heinz Granitza. And he can boom him from right there. Just chips it ahead. Arno Steffenhagen, the left foot shot. It is blocked right in front. Good defensive play by Sam Lenarduzzi. And he tips it back to Chersky, who tries the goal kick.
Spencer, if you had a great thinker and everyone was expecting it, sometimes you go to the fastball. I think that's what Granitza is doing. Everyone's expecting him to take that direct free kick right on, and he's laying it off because they're marking him doubly, leaving someone open.
And again, when you have somebody like Steffenhagen to lay it off to, it's what makes the Chicago team so powerful. Their record now, 8 wins and 2 losses. Percentage-wise, best record in the North American Soccer League. Here's Julius Sono dropping it back to brother Jono. Jono Sono at the 35. Exciting play. Trying to push it ahead to his brother, who was going one way, and the ball came the other. So Chicago in control once again with 38-38 remaining, and a good look at Julius Sono, number 24. Here comes Chicago on the run. A good ball down the left side to Rudy Glenn. Glenn drops it back for Dave Houston. Houston into the box. It comes to Granitza, and Granitza loses control to Gongo Tikin. And Tikin kicks it ahead. Clyde Best coming back to meet it for Toronto to Randy Reagan.
Chicago pressuring all over the field. They don't want to give Toronto a yard.
And over the line it goes. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto with 38 minutes left in this first half. 0-0 the score.
To run down quickly the people in the lineup for Toronto. We'll give it up here.
Here is Granitza, and offside he was. Trapped into that offside as the Toronto defenders came back just as that ball was about to be played. The starting lineups tonight, first for Chicago.
Okay, Greg Ryan, Milkiewicz, Spalding and Matthew defensively, Houston, Peter, Glenn, and Steffenhagen in the middle, and Ficus and Granitza up front. For Toronto, Leonarduzzi, Frank Tikin, and Wilson at the back, Reagan, Velasquez, Sono, and Bonaperti in the middle, and up front, Clyde Best and Julius Sono.
And this is Clyde Best, number 17 for the Toronto Blizzards. Best trying to make a move around Franz Matthew. Tries to tip it back. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Chicago. Chicago not afraid to send a second man onto the offensive player, as they did right there, and it worked because Rudy Glenn harassed Clyde Best into losing the ball over the line. So the throw-in for Chicago Sting with 37 minutes left in the half. 0-0 is the score. A good ball, but it's broken up finally by the Toronto Blizzards. Gongo Tikin, number 5. This is Randy Reagan. Bonaperti, number 21, to Bruce Wilson. You almost get the feeling that it is going to clear here in Toronto.
You do?
But you do not know exactly when.
Maybe tomorrow.
Jomo Sono puts it into the box to his brother, and the left-footed shot. Not much on it by Jose Velasquez. It'll be a goal kick coming up. Scoreless game, and Wednesday night NASL soccer will continue on the USA Network right after this message. Now Troutwig at Toronto's Exhibition Stadium. We're in the first half, and Chicago on the attack. Bruce Wilson deflects it over the line. It'll be a corner kick coming up for the Chicago Sting, and Karl-Heinz Granitza, number 12, will step it off into the corner and tee it up. Granitza, the big gun for the Chicago team, which currently leads the Central Division with a record of 8-2, way out in front of the Tulsa Roughnecks, who sit in second place at 5-4. Granitza hooks it into the net, and the header sails high off the head of Rudy Glenn, and it'll be a goal kick coming up for Toronto.
Glenn was much too deep in the box to really do too much with that, but Chersky was against the near box. Had Glenn been able to flick it out to someone, Chersky would have been nowhere to be found. Granitza just has such a great foot. He can put the ball on a dime no matter where he wants it.
That one really was perfect, but just a bit too high, Alan. Had it been down lower, might have been trouble for Tony Chersky.
The ideal corner kick is about head high.
Another look at that one.
See that? Chersky taken out of the play by Glenn. Really no one in the whole 24 feet of the net. No one really would have been able to do too much. The ideal corner kick, a little over head high. It doesn't. It allows the offensive team a little bit of an advantage in getting to the ball first.
We're still scoreless here in the first half, and Randy Reagan taken down by Rudy Glenn. It'll be a free kick, indirect free kick, coming up for the Toronto Blizzard. Sam Leonarduzzi, number 4.
Sam, one of 4 brothers, and one of those sports families that just churns them out.
Canadian citizen, native of Italy. And here comes Chicago on the attack once again. Granitza's pass just a little bit behind Ingo Peter, and Toronto comes back now. Tikin, his pass Intercepted by Arno Steffenhagen, and goalkeeper Paul Coffey has it for the Chicago Sting. 32:58 left in the first half. And
tough situation for the young American Coffey out of San Jose just 2 years ago. He's got a lot of pressure. He's got an 8-2 team, a team that people expect to go all the way. Should the Phil Park situation not be resolved, he'll be in the end of the season. He could be the scapegoat for the whole thing, even though he got very little experience last year.
Into the box it comes. It's broken up by Lenarduzzi. Another throw-in for Chicago. The situation with Parks developed last Wednesday night in the game with Minnesota. It was 2-2 at halftime. And at halftime, Willie Roy had some words for Phil Parks. Phil Parks said, if you don't like it, take me out. Willie Roy said, maybe I'll do that. And he did.
Enter Paul Coffey. Tonight in the North American Soccer League, we have a couple of other games that we can find the schedule, which I don't have. We'll get it.
Goal kick coming up for Tony Chersky. Here is Randy Reagan, number 16 for Toronto. 11 is Jomo Sono in control of the ball.
Success. Seattle's at Minnesota, Portland at Vancouver, Los Angeles at San Jose, and Fort Lauderdale is out at San Diego. Fort Lauderdale having their troubles already on that West Coast trip. They lost in the shootout to Los Angeles. And the Western Division out there really tight. Teams battling back and forth.
And that's why that Fort Lauderdale victory last week that you saw here on the USA Network was so important to give them a little bit of a cushion ahead of Atlanta. They lead Atlanta now by 4 points in the Southern Division of the NASL. This is Wednesday night NASL soccer on the USA Network. It'll continue right after this message. Scoreless game, 30 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the first half. Lenarduzzi and Franz Matthew puts it over the line. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto.
Either team really holding the advantage. It's a type of game, the type of weather, the type of field conditions where a team like Toronto could upset Chicago.
And a team like Toronto, though, as we mentioned earlier, has had its problems in the closing stages of games. Toronto's record 3-7. In 4 of their losses, they gave up 18 goals. It's more than 4.5 a game. In 4 of their other games, they gave up a total of 6 goals. Spencer Ross along with Alan Troutwick here at Toronto's Exhibition Stadium. A scoreless game here in the first half. And Toronto in control now. Sam Lenarduzzi, number 4. Tries to put it ahead, and this is a back heel nicely by Karl-Heinz Granitza. But Granitza has it taken away by Randy Reagan to Clyde Best. Tipped away by Franz Matthew. Lenarduzzi has it.
Toronto having trouble, similar to what Fort Lauderdale experienced last week, in that their midfield is having a lot of trouble distributing the ball, moving it forward. Clyde Best back at the midfield line, leaving Julius Sono as the only legitimate forward up front. It's a difficult way to move the ball up, especially when you're relying on 4 midfielders, as Toronto is, to take that ball and move it up. So that's one of the problems they're having right off the bat.
And when you're a forward like Clyde Best, you are at your best when you're up in your own zone instead of coming back to meet the ball. Gungar Tikin tips it back to Tony Chersky, and Sam Lenarduzzi has it now for Toronto. 28:55 left in the half, a scoreless game. Lenarduzzi left foots it ahead to Clyde Best. But it's broken up by the Chicago defense once again. And for the Sting, Greg Ryan comes up with it. Long ball, broken up, and over the line it goes. Tipped off by Gianpaolo Bonaperti. And this is Arno Steffenhagen to Karl-Heinz Granitza. And the pushing foul, that time on Gungar Tikin. And Tikin picks up the foul. Has some words for the referee, and a free kick coming up here for the ever-dangerous Karl-Heinz Granitza. Granitza hooks it into the box. The header sails wide.
A brilliant cross by Granitza. He can really place it anywhere. The ball had a wicked left-to-right curl on it, pulled away from Chersky, and it left 2 or 3 Chicago Sting players up front with a good opportunity. Another look at it. Look at the curl. Chersky goes out, then has to return because the curl really faked him, and he could have been beaten easily because he's way outside, and a header could have beaten him, but it did go wide.
Still scoreless we are with 27:45 remaining. This is Jomo Sono, number 11, to Randy Reagan, number 16. And Chicago comes up with it once again. Dave Hewson, number 16. Good defensive play, that time by Colin Franks, the captain of the Toronto Blizzard. And Clyde Best coming back to make a good defensive play. Here's Jomo Sono. Sono to Velasquez. Returns to Sono, has Reagan on the right. Randy Reagan chasing it down. He'll try and cross it into the box, but it's ticked over the line, and it'll be a corner kick coming up for the Toronto Blizzard, their first of the contest, with 27:05 remaining in this first half. Scoreless game, Toronto and Chicago, and this is Velasquez.
That's what I'd really like to see. Toronto put 2 players up front. I'll give you them in a second.
Here is Velasquez into the box, and Coffey comes out to meet it. Randy Reagan's shot sails way wide. Sam Lenarduzzi has it, number 4. To Bruce Wilson, who crosses over the 35. Wilson tries the left-footed cross into the box, and it's deflected nicely over the line, but it will set up a corner kick. Good defensive play that time by Chicago's Derek Spalding, number 4, native of Scotland, U.S. citizen. In his 3 years with Chicago, has amassed 13 goals. Hasn't put one in yet this season. Here's Bruce Wilson with the corner. That one comes out way high. Clyde Best heads it. Out in front it is. Still control. Jomo Sono with a scissor kick. Up into the air it goes. Over the line. And it'll be a goal kick coming up for the Chicago Sting. With the score 0-0. We'll be back in the USA Network right after this. Stadium, Spencer Ross and Alan Troutwig here in the USA Network. A scoreless game between the Chicago Sting and the Toronto Blizzard with 24 minutes and 35 seconds remaining in the first half. Franz Matthew, number 7, has it now for Chicago, and Reagan puts it over the line. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Chicago. Arno Steffenhagen. This is Glenn, number 8. A look at the Toronto bench. The umbrellas are up. Players in the field, of course, can't use it. Over the line it goes. Tekin says no, it was off Chicago. No, says the linesman. So the throw-in. This is Hewson, number 16. To Granitza. Good wall pass to Hewson. Comes flying in, and Chersky makes the diving save. The give and go, the wall pass with Hewson combining with Karl-Heinz Granitza.
Chicago obviously controlling here, moving the ball quickly. As soon as they get the ball, they're charging up the field, looking for the one-touch passes that create open space.
And here comes Chicago once again with 23:40 remaining in the half. Arno Steffenhagen. Steffenhagen dropping it off. Looped up into the air. Chersky will watch it go. And it takes a good bounce, and it just kind of died on that AstroTurf. Hewson makes a good move, but tips it too far in front of himself. Over the line it goes, off Gungar Tekin, but it will be a goal kick coming up. Watch this.
The beauty of a Chicago Sting possession. One touch, just direct the ball. Don't even hesitate to control and then pass it almost a little bit off the play.
Back live now, Chicago in control once again, and they have controlled the ball primarily during these last 5 or 6 minutes. Although this game remains scoreless, and it'll be a goal kick coming up for the Toronto Blizzard.
I'd like to see Toronto move Clyde Best a little bit further into the box and also give him a little help with Carlos Velasquez. Between the two of them, they're 12 feet tall and 3 inches. They could try to cross a few in the box, maybe utilize them, the height advantage inside the box to score a few goals. What's working for them now, at least what they're trying right now, is not working. Experiment, try something else.
Randy Reagan chasing it down. This telecast presented by authority of the North American Soccer League and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this match without the express written consent of the North American Soccer League is prohibited. For Toronto, Sam Lenarduzzi, number 4. This is Velasquez dropping it off for Jomo Sono. Sono trying to make the move, and he has a ball, and he makes a beauty. That time around, Houston puts it in the box, but it's cleared out. Comes to Randy Reagan. Reagan to Sono. Sono and Houston chase it down. Over the line it goes. It'll be a throw-in for Toronto. And that's what makes Jomo Sono such a popular player.
It's that first step that really gives him that explosive speed.
Gets it to Clyde Best, but it's taken away nicely by Franz Matthew, who avoids going over the line, and he clears it out to the center of the field. Gungor Tikin, number 5, has it. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto. Had a good look at Franz Matthew that time, apparently out of bounds, but the ball must go completely over the line. The player's body can be over the line as long as the ball stays in, and that was the situation there with Franz Matthew. Here's Clyde Best around Houston, broken up by the defense and played by Chicago's Arno Steffenhagen, number 6. This is Matthew. And it'll be a throw-in coming up by the Chicago Sting with 20 minutes, 58 seconds remaining in the scoreless first half.
Previous play, Clyde Best on the wing. Not his position. It's a tough skill and a skill that not many players have, and the ability to move at top speed with the ball. Best doesn't have that speed, so he's not going to break free on the wings. Keep him in the box and let someone else cross it to him.
Rudy Glenn, number 8, and a foul just about at the midfield line. It'll be on Toronto, Jose Velasquez. As Velasquez went high and seemed to come down hard.
We'll get another look at it here. Comes back outside. And, of course, Velasquez with a few inches there, certainly a foul.
Back live, here is Chicago on the attack, and Bruce Wilson breaks it up very nicely. Tony Chersky in goal for the Toronto Blizzard, getting it to Randy Reagan. Reagan dribbling ahead. Long ball to Clyde Best. Best returning to Reagan. Reagan trying to move on Houston, number 16, a pair of 16, putting it into the box, intended for Best, chased down by Velasquez and put over the line by Chicago's Ingo Peters. So it'll be a throw-in for Toronto with 19:49 remaining in the half. And, Alan, I think the rain is coming down harder.
Yeah, it seems like it is. And Toronto looked pretty good, that charge up the field.
Here's Jomo Sono with a scissor kick into the box, but Paul Coffey is there to garner it in. Clyde Best was right with him, but Coffey with the advantage of being able to use his hand. Charlie Ficus, number 9, chasing it down. He has been taken completely out of the game in these first 25 minutes.
Charlie, the American up front with Granitza for Chicago, really out of the game. And the distribution just moments ago by Coffey skipped off the wet turf, went right out back to Toronto. Keep in mind also that the ball is wet. The goalkeepers are wearing the special gloves as we look at Randy Reagan get back on defense. He's busy back there with that Chicago offensive push. But those gloves will be getting a workout. I think maybe if we're going to see some goals, they might be strange ones where the goalkeeper has it, drops it, and then someone knocks it in.
Long ball down the far side. Granitza goes put along with Wilson. And the foul will go on Chicago. So it'll be an indirect free kick coming up for the Toronto Blizzard. Bruce Wilson dropping it for Sam Lenarduzzi. This is Gungor Tikin, number 5. And there you see that foul, pretty obvious one.
Most of the fouls so far have been fairly obvious.
Here's Velasquez. Bruce Wilson has room, drops it back to Velasquez. Velasquez backing up now. Jomo Sono crosses with him. Sono has it. Tries to put it in the box. Bounce off ahead. Sono again makes a good move. Can he keep it in? He does. But he shoots it off the side of the net. And it'll be a goal kick coming up for the Chicago Stings. And for our local systems, we'll pause now. You're watching Chicago and Toronto in a scoreless artificial surface it is. Long ball. It's played by Lenarduzzi now for Toronto with 17:35 remaining in the half.
The stadium is sitting in the middle of a fabulously entertaining recreational area. There's all types of museums, Hockey Hall of Fame in the back, and they have what I hear is a great fair that takes place here every year. It's all part of this whole exhibition area.
Well, Lake Ontario is in the background, and despite the rain at about 6 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon, there were still quite a few sailboats out there. As long as there's no snow in the ground or ice in the lake, they'll bring the sailboats out in Ontario. Spencer Ross along with Alan Troutwig on the USA Network. We're at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. The Blizzard, the hometown team, and the Chicago Sting in a scoreless game with 16:45 remaining in the first half. And neither team has really mounted much of an offense, although I'd say in the first 30 minutes, Chicago's had a bit of the edge.
They have, but I think in the last few times down, Toronto has made the most of their charges. I'd like to see Bruce Wilson also move up for Toronto. I've come up with a couple of new strategies for Keith Eddy and the Toronto team to take advantage of. Not that they're right or anything, as the clock ticks down here in the first half. Still, we haven't seen anything really close to a goal, except for that cross earlier by Granitza that curled away from Chersky. That, I think, was a little bit more dangerous than it looked.
2 or 3 times, you mentioned Bruce Wilson, when he has come downfield, he has found himself with a lot of room. So let's look for Toronto perhaps to try and utilize that more often. This is Franz Mathieu, number 7. Clyde Best chasing it down now for Toronto, and Best forces him to lose control of the ball. Lenarduzzi putting it ahead to Jomo Sono. Sono trying to make the move around number 4, Derek Spalding. Sono still in control of the ball. Man, it's incredible. Gives it up, and Lenarduzzi loses it now. Bonaperti puts it up into the air, and once again, Chicago comes back. Charlie Ficus, number 9, puts it on net, but goalkeeper Chersky is there for an easy save.
You're talking about Sono. He obviously has great skills. He's a super player, but I think he's become a little bit frustrated as to what has happened to Toronto this season, and he's trying to do a lot of it by himself. He's keeping the ball. He's crowding other players when they have the ball, and I think that's kind of hindered the overall progress of that front line. He certainly has the skills to be a great scorer.
And, of course, when you're losing and you have a player with such great individual skills, no matter what the sport, frustration begins to set in. And he tries to do it himself. Charlie Ficus making a move. And it'll be a Blizzard throw-in with 14:45 remaining in the half. We're still scoreless here in Toronto. The throw-in comes to Randy Reagan. He cannot control. Ficus puts it back into the center of the field, where it's played by Colin Franks. Here's Bruce Wilson. Again, you see a lot of room that Wilson has, and the gap closes up now as he approaches midfield. Goes crossfield to Randy Reagan, number 16, who heads it up for Sam Lenarduzzi. Lenarduzzi, number 4, to Jomo Sono, number 11. Jomo at the 35 has it knocked away by Derek Spalding. This is Gongor Tikin. Lenarduzzi. Lenarduzzi giving it to Reagan. He's inside the 35. Reagan makes a good move. Cannot gain traction, though. Lenarduzzi tries the cross high up into the air into the box, but it is played by the Chicago Sting's Ingo Peter. And back the other way, and failing to come up with it was Bonaperti. So here is Granitza on a rush. Bonaperti tackles the ball away, and Tony Chersky comes up with it.
Karl-Heinz weaving around the 2 Toronto defenders, even having trouble, though, controlling the ball on the wet turf. What Toronto is doing, which is very smart as they move up, is they're playing it to the far right or the far left. They're drawing Chicago over, then cross the ball over and move upfield because of all the open space. See, now on the near side, there's no one there for Chicago. If they can get someone on that side and cross over, they're okay.
Colin Franks, the captain of Toronto's Blizzard, giving it to Jomo Sono. This is Randy Reagan. Reagan crosses into the box. Velasquez is there, but it's cleared out nicely. Good defensive play by Derek Spalding. And Chicago back in the attack with 13 minutes remaining in the first half. Karl-Heinz Granitza cannot control. Randy Reagan can. Reagan dropping it back, and it's pushed ahead now to Bonaperti. Bonaperti to Sono. Tackled away from him nicely and taken by Ingo Peter, number 14. Ingo Peter, he is outside. He fires. Chersky makes the save with the right hand. Ingo Peter came flying in just outside, and Chersky came up strong. And it keeps it a scoreless game. Chicago back in the attack again. They find room on the right side. Charlie Ficus comes flying in. Chersky under the attack, and it goes right through the box. Tony Chersky came out, and nobody was there that time for Chicago.
This is Ingo Peter coming down the right side. Good save by Chersky, but the third leading scorer of Chicago, Ingo Peter, a midfielder, not afraid to come out of that midfield and charge up front.
Peter already with 3 goals this season and 4 assists for a total of 10 points. 11:53 remaining in the first half of play. We are still scoreless And we'll be back on the USA Network right after. Alan mentioned earlier, Wilson being given a lot of room, most certainly was, and had an opportunity there, but offside. And the raindrops keep falling on the heads of the Chicago Sting players. The ones on the bench, however, don't mind it, as they're wrapped up in the slickers.
I'm not sure which one is better, the guys that are actually playing or the guys that want to be playing that are sitting on the bench just staying cold and wet.
There's an offside on Chicago. I'd rather be out on the field because it is nippy here tonight. It is just about 5 degrees too warm to really be bitter. But there's a chill in the air. And indeed, a cold evening. Sitting down on that bench is not a very comfortable place to be.
I looked in the paper yesterday to see what kind of clothes I should bring. 77 degrees in Toronto. I didn't bring anything that was anything close to being warm in this type of weather.
And no raincoat.
No.
Joe Mosono back-heeled it over to Clyde Best, and Best lost control of it, so it'll be a throw-in coming up for Chicago. 9:20 remaining here in the first half. Scoreless game, and Toronto is picking up the pace a bit, making some moves, but once they really get inside the 35, unable to finish anything off.
That, of course, the problem for most soccer teams that can't score. Finishing. You get to the 18 or you move to a certain point on the field, and there's just that one magical element that's missing, and that's the finishing touch.
Here's Joe Mosono. Bonaperti, number 21, broken up by Houston, taken back by Bonaperti, and that'll be a foul on Chicago. The clock ticks down. 8 minutes and 36 seconds remaining now in the first half. We're still scoreless. Sam Lenarduzzi, number 4 now for Toronto. To Joe Mosono. Sono controls to Bonaperti. This is Randy Reagan, number 16 at the 35-yard line. Crosses it into the box, broken up nicely by Derek Spalding, taken by Velasquez to Reagan, number 16. Reagan left puts it into the box. Derek Spalding is there once again. Reagan has it back at the 35. Trying to move on Houston. Tries to put it between his legs, and Houston deflected it back off Reagan, so it'll be a throw-in coming up for Chicago.
We haven't seen any one of the great charges upfield of the man who just passed the ball to Paul Coffey. That's Franz Matthew. Blazing speed. When he gets he doesn't do it very often, but when he does, very exciting. He's become a real popular player in Chicago.
Ivan Mielkovic now for the Chicago Sting. This is Houston. Houston's at the 35. Randy Reagan's in front of him for Toronto. Houston puts the ball back to himself, tries to make the move on Lenarduzzi. Lenarduzzi will pick up the foul. It'll come right outside the box and set up a free kick for the Chicago Sting from some very dangerous territory.
Wait a minute, this is a penalty kick.
Did they call it in the box? Let's see.
I'd like to see this one again. Yes, indeed.
Yes, it was in the box, so it'll be a penalty kick coming up for the Chicago Sting.
Well, they call it the penalty area because if the normal fouls are committed inside that box, which is 18 yards out from the goal line, it is a penalty kick. And I would assume, well, let's see. Taking it for Chicago
will be Derek Spalding. And Spalding has yet to score a goal this year. And he is on the verge of putting his first one on. Just Spalding against the goaltender, Chersky. And here it comes. And it's a goal. Chersky went to the right. Spalding shot to the left, and it is a 1-0 game in favor of the Chicago Sting on the penalty kick. The crowd below us did not like the call. You take a look at the far side of the stands. Nobody is there. They move all the fans over to this side, and here is the penalty kick.
Spalding, the penalty kick expert, as Chersky makes it 50-50, dove to his right. Spalding went the other way to his left. He was 4 for 4 in penalty kicks in '79 and made 4 out of 6 last year. So he is their penalty kick expert. This year, his first goal.
And as we mentioned, he had 13 in his last 3 years, and he was looking for his first. He gets his first right now to make it a 1-0 game in favor of the Chicago Sting. Here's Randy Reagan crossing it into the box, and Coffey comes up big. Bruce Wilson with the right foot shot. It's deflected and kicked up high into the air by Franz Matthew. Big opportunity. Closest call of the evening for Paul Coffey in goal for the Chicago Sting, as Toronto very nearly came back inside it.
That was a good opportunity for Toronto, and what it would have done for their morale to score a goal right away to come back and not to score. But as Toronto, we're getting a yellow card here. I didn't see who it was to, but
I can guarantee you it's to one of the Toronto players.
I think it's to Sam Lenarduzzi. No, number 5.
Gungor Tikin is the man who picks it up. He is also the man who picked up the foul, which set up the penalty kick that Spalding put home at 38-32 to make it a 1-0 game in favor of the Chicago Sting. There is Gungor Tikin, number 5. Ball just rolls dead on this very, very wet artificial surface. Gianpaolo Bonaparti giving it to Sam Lenarduzzi. And with 4:33 left in the half, a 1-0 game. We'll be back with more on the USA Network right after this. Free kick coming up for the Toronto Blizzard. Jomo Sono puts it into the box. Clyde Best is there, and here is Paul Coffey coming up with a save.
Yeah, for Toronto to beat Chicago, they've got to play a tight, aggressive, tough tackling game. That's what happened at the other end of the field. Unfortunately, they got nailed for the penalty kick. But if they're going to beat Chicago, they've got to play the type of game where Chicago just isn't able to run around them and weave in through them.
And they have been unable to do it thus far this evening. But that penalty kick does make it a 1-0 game. Here's Randy Reagan, number 16 now for Toronto. Houston chasing it down for Chicago. And the throw-in will go to the Chicago Sting. Toronto with a throw-in now with 3 minutes and 23 seconds remaining in the first half. At halftime, Allen will be talking with Jomo Sono of the Toronto Blizzard, so you stay tuned for that. 1-0 game. Ivan Mielkovic with a long ball downfield, and it's headed back by Lenarduzzi. This is Franz Matthew. Ingo Peter, number 14 now for Chicago. Peter in control. Velasquez blocks it with his chest. And Chicago called for an offside, so it'll be an indirect free kick coming up for Toronto as the clock continues to tick down. 2 minutes and 38 seconds remaining in the half.
Awful lot of players bunched up in the middle of the field that time. I didn't really see anyone offside until just at the very last moment. I think it was Arno Steffenhagen who was in the middle of all those guys trying to put his shoe back on.
Franz Matthew heads it up in the air. Bonaparti comes up with it. This is Randy Reagan. Reagan having trouble controlling it, and Granitza comes up with it and drops it back to number 9, Charlie Ficus. Granitza. We have 2 minutes and 3 seconds remaining in the first half. Chicago on a penalty kick score by Derek Spalding at 38-32 leads it by a score of 1-0. Sam Lenarduzzi chasing it down. It'll be a throw-in coming up for the Toronto Blizzard. You can see the rain as it hits the surface just outside the artificial grass. This is Houston. Rudy Glenn, number 8. Houston again at midfield. Randy Reagan in front of him. And the rain has kind of obliterated the lines, which are permanent lines, but then they chalk them up to bring out the color. And at this point, they've just about disappeared.
They're not so permanent.
No. Here's Tony Chersky garnering it in with 1 minute and 14 seconds remaining. Velasquez, and taken right off his foot by Rudy Glenn. Played ahead by Derek Spalding. This is Lenarduzzi now for Toronto. Has to be a frustrating situation for the Blizzard. They play a team in a 6-game winning streak even through the first half, and a penalty kick. At this point, it looks like they're going into the locker room trailing by a score of 1-0.
Keith Eddy just felt that he had the team just about at a certain point. They had won 3 of 4. Now they've won 3 out of their last 5, Toronto has. And then the injury. and they have to just rebuild and now play with a temporary lineup because the players that are injured, he will want to put them back in the lineup.
4 of the regulars out of the lineup. Clyde Best now chasing it down. Locks it with his arm. Left foot shot of a save by Coffey, and a beauty. And Clyde Best will remember that one because he had a beautiful opportunity with about 20 seconds remaining right here.
This is the strength of the big Toronto forward. Control the ball, knock it down, spin, fire. The only part that went wrong was the save by Coffey.
Left foot save by Paul Coffey. Malcolm Robertson, Jimmy Greenhoff, Luigi Martini, and Gordon Wallace out of the lineup with injuries for Toronto. There's the man who came up with the big save, Paul Coffey. And that is it. The whistle sounds, ending the first half here at Toronto's Exhibition Stadium with a score. The Chicago Sting 1 and the Toronto Blizzard nothing.
What seems to be the problem?
Yeah, all I would say is that we started very slowly. But during the preseason, everybody was confident that things will work out well with the new players we have and so on, you know. And as soon as we started playing against Jacksonville, which we lost 1-0, I would say most of the lads, they lost confidence. And then we lost 4-3 to Tampa Bay. After that, we went to New York, where we played well. From New York, we picked it up. We beat Fort Lauderdale, Edmonton, and Dallas. And in the last game against Dallas, everybody thought, well, now we're starting to understand each other. Unfortunately, bang, there it goes, we lost.
Now, I looked at the team play, and it seemed to me against the Cosmos, the game that I saw, it seemed to me that the team seemed to just die with about 15 minutes left. Now, there also seemed to be some injuries. Is it conditioning, or is it, as Keith Eddy put it, a lack of concentration and a loss of spirit as you get down a goal or two?
I think it's lack of concentration and, you know, like you said, I would put it that way. And, you know, the last 15 minutes, at the back, the back four just relaxes and people just come in from behind and get goals, you know. Because up front there, we're creating chances, you know, but though up front you're not scoring so many goals, but the chances we're creating, it's better than last year, you know.
Your career has really blossomed, and special congratulations. I know the people in Toronto here have really taken a liking to you, and I think you've become the leader of Toronto. Congratulations. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks a lot.
Joe Mosono of the Toronto Blizzard will return to Wednesday night NASL soccer on the U.S.
To fall heavily, the hometown Blizzard trailing the Chicago Sting by a score of 1-0 on a penalty shot goal by Derek Spalding at 38-32. Play already underway here in the second half. Here's the goal in half number 1.
Spalding, Chersky will go right, and Spalding, who is the penalty kick expert of Chicago, knocks it home easily. His first goal of the season and the only goal of the game so far. That's where we sit right now as the second half begins.
And as the second half begins, Coach Keith Eddy of the Toronto Blizzard has made his first change. Julius Sono has been lifted from the contest, replaced by native Canadian Gordon Sweetser. Sweetser was a probable for tonight's contest. He's also been injured, and he is in the lineup. Here is Jomo Sono on the attack to Velasquez, and it's broken up nicely by Houston. Back quickly comes the Chicago Sting. Ivan Mielkovic feeding it ahead to Granitza. Good ball. Granitza chasing it down, but it is broken up by Sam Lenarduzzi. So 1-0 remains the score, as Toronto will try an attack with Gordon Sweetser, who had 5 goals and 8 assists last season, in the lineup replacing Julius Sono.
Stats from the first half: shots Toronto 3, Chicago 7. Saves were 2 apiece. Corner kicks 3-1 in favor of Toronto. Fouls 13-5 in favor of Toronto. Chicago offside 4 times. Toronto only 1. The fouls indicative of the aggressive style of play Toronto's employing in the game. 13-5, more fouls than Chicago.
Here is Jomo Sono now for the Toronto Blizzard, and he'll get a throw-in as it was played last by Derek Spalding, the goal scorer. Bonaparte, number 21, drops it off. Bruce Wilson will throw it in. Looking for Sono. And off the leg appeared of Ingo Peter, but no call from the referee. So it'll be a goal kick coming up. And there's Jomo Sono kind of shaking his head.
Well, it was kind of a lazy throw, and at least it looked that way from up here. Toronto relying on Chicago's player to deflect it over the goal line. I think they should have gone outside with it and set it up again, but they didn't.
Here's Bruce Wilson at the 35 to Jomo Sono of the Toronto Blizzard. Sono looking for people to clear away so he has a little more room. Bonaparte to Sono. Sono, a Derek Spalding all over him. Sono, good ball to Bruce Wilson, but it deflects off his foot, and Houston clears it back over the 35.
So a brief look at one of the great moves of Sono, able to spin and whirl 360 and just leave his defender in the dust. It's a move I remember Beckenbauer using to its best advantage.
Of course, Jomo Sono, one time a member of the New York Cosmos. Clyde Best coming down with it now, looking for it, but it's cleared over the line very nicely and quickly by Mijokowicz, number 2 for the Chicago Sting. So a throw-in coming up for Toronto. They trail 1-0. And Randy Reagan on the sideline throws it in. Clyde Best goes for it, but it's cleared out by Mijokowicz. Played by Sam Lenarduzzi at the 35. Lenarduzzi to Colin Franks. Franks into the box, and Franz Matthew leaps in front of Clyde Best to head it away. Jomo Sono, number 11. Good ball to Bruce Wilson. He has room, tries to cross it into the box, and it's deflected by Dave Houston. Back into the box it comes, and it's headed out this time by Mijokowicz. Chicago on the defense as Toronto is on the attack. Lenarduzzi to Sono. Tries to return it back, but it's broken up. Sono comes up with it again. Tries to slide into the ball, and the foul is called on Rudy Glenn. So a free kick coming up. There is Jomo Sono, and a look at the foul right here.
And it's another obvious one. Obvious pushing there. Sono just going down, the ball nowhere to be found.
Jomo Sono and Bruce Wilson lining up side by side for this free kick. We'll see who takes it. That's Wilson on the right, Sono on the left. Wilson just passes it by, crossed into the box. Up into the air it goes, and the shot sailing high and over the net by Colin Franks. It'll be a goal kick coming up. No, check it, a throw-in, corner kick, as it was deflected last by a Chicago player. So here's Bruce Wilson.
4th corner for Toronto.
Curves up and practically out of the box. Franz Matthew goes for it. Jomo Sono tries to rifle one. It is deflected over the line. It goes, and we're going to get another corner kick coming up for the Toronto Blizzard.
Their 5th. And Toronto has changed their game plan around completely as the second half is early on.
Toronto on the offense. Bruce Wilson with the corner kick. This one doesn't curve as far out, but it's headed out by Franz Matthew and played now by Colin Franks, number 6. Matthew after him puts it into the corner. Houston comes up with it and deflects it off the leg of the Toronto player, so it'll be a throw-in coming up for Chicago.
Now, a few weeks ago in the weekly NASL release sent out by Vince Casey, there was a list of players from a broadcaster in Dallas. It's silly, but slightly humorous. It was the NASL all-food team, and we have 2 representatives of that here, and Paul Coffey and Colin Franks.
Vince Casey, of course, the public relations director for the North American Soccer League, who does a real fine job in keeping folks abreast of the situation in the NASL. Franz Matthew again coming out and fronting Clyde Best nicely to take it away. Chicago just trying to clear the zone. Toronto has been in the attack. Play has taken place inside this 35-yard line for about the last 3 minutes. But a bad ball, it'll be a throw-in coming up now for Chicago. Greg Ryan, number 3, one of the Native Americans in the lineup for the Chicago Sting, to Houston. They've got 5 of them in the lineup tonight.
That's quite an achievement for this team that has a blend of internationals, West Germans, what have you. The Americans are Ryan, Spalding, Glenn, Ficus, and Coffey.
That's Mijokowicz, who is not a Native American, hails from Yugoslavia. Here's Jomo Sono. Sono, Greg Ryan steps in front of him, but Sono still has it. Gets it over to Reagan, and a good sliding tackle by Franz Matthew. Puts it over the line, and it'll be a throw-in coming up. Jomo Sono lining up in the box as this throw-in comes in. It's headed out by Greg Ryan. Reagan goes for it, but it's played instead by Arno Steffenhagen. Here is Ryan. Ball little too long, and Lenarduzzi gets it to Sono into the box, and a save that time by Coffey, who comes up with a long goal kick. And the pushing foul will be on Teakin. Teakin picked up the foul, which led to the penalty kick in the game's only goal. Here's Rudy Glenn now for Chicago. Makes a good move around Lenarduzzi. Over the line it goes, and the call will be a corner kick coming up for Chicago.
Their second.
That's ruled a free kick.
Oops, sorry.
On a pushing foul. In a dangerous situation right here as far as Toronto is concerned.
Might as well be a corner kick from the position it's being taken from.
Granitza steps away, and Ingo Peter comes over now to try the free kick. Just outside the box, right along the line. Bruce Wilson is the man standing in front of Ingo Peter, just to the left, outside of the vision of your screen. There he is. Ingo Peter puts it into the box, and Clyde Best puts it over the line, and now we will get a corner kick.
Just a matter of time before they finally got it.
So the corner kick coming up, Karl-Heinz Granitza. As Alan alluded to many times in the first half, Granitza just uncanny with the way he can place this ball.
If we can, watch Chersky, the way he positions himself in the back of the net. That's because it's easier to run forward than it is to run backward to make a save. So he'll set a defender up at the near post of the kick.
Here is Granitza's kick. Ingo Peter tries the header into the box. Bonaparti goes for it, and it's finally cleared out. Jomo Sono has it now. Houston all over him trying to tackle it away. Sono maintains control with 36-15 remaining in the second half. 1-0. The Chicago Sting out in front. This is Bruce Wilson now for Toronto. Long ball intended for Reagan. Here's Colin Franks putting it into the box and tipped over the net beautifully by Paul Coffey. Great save by Coffey, who had no choice but just to try and get it out, and he did just that because flying in at that point was Gordon Sweetser.
Coffey playing with all the confidence as if he's been in there all season. That one was ticketed for just inside the post, slapped it over, and the timing of that is the key. Great save by Coffey. He just has to time that so he's at the peak of his jump when the ball gets there. Watch it.
And number 14, Gordon Sweetser, was there looking for a possible rebound in case Coffey didn't tip it back, instead tipped it forward. Bruce Wilson will try the corner here for Toronto. 35-35 remaining. 1-0 Chicago, hooking into the box nicely, but it's headed over the line, and the call is off the Toronto player. So it'll be a goal kick coming up. And Wednesday night NASL soccer will continue on the USA Network right after this message. One nothing, the Chicago Sting out in front as Franz Matthew makes a move upfield. This is Greg Ryan, number 3. Matthew, number 7, just chips it ahead. Stefan Hagen getting it to Ryan, who overruns the ball, and it's taken back by the Toronto Blizzard. Ryan deflects it over the line, and it'll be a goal kick coming up now for the Toronto Blizzard.
Well, it's about 35 minutes remaining in the game. We've seen only one goal, that a penalty kick. I think Keith Eddy, although Chicago, I think, has had a slight advantage in the play, should be very happy with the way his Toronto team has stayed together and come out in the second half and really played inspired soccer. They also seem to have maintained their concentration and their unity.
Spencer Ross and Alan Troutwig, Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. Rain continues to come down in torrents in a 1-0 game. And there is an obvious foul, no doubt about it, on Ivan Mijatovic. Let me tell you, he really held that time. Gordon Sweetser. Watch Sweetser.
Oh, the manufacturer of the jersey looking on saying, see, I make a great jersey.
Give me a rip-away jersey, because Sweetser would have been in. So it'll be a free kick coming up. A direct free kick. The Chicago players have to line up 10 yards away from the ball. They're about 6 or 7 away. Not anywhere near 10. Bonaparti is the man who will try it. Jomo Sono will now come into your picture. There he is. Sono chips it ahead, and it's headed back by Arno Steffenhagen. 34 minutes remaining. Second half, 1-0. Chicago out in front. Sam Lenarduzzi just tips it back to his goalkeeper, Tony Chersky, and has some words for his teammates, saying, come back and help me out. Don't leave me here all alone.
Oh, in Europe, they would have whistled him right out of the city.
Here is Lenarduzzi once again to Bruce Wilson. Wilson, long ball, intended for Clyde Best, broken up by Mielkovic. He feeds it ahead. Bonaparte chasing it down along with Chicago's Charlie Ficus. And over the line it goes. It'll be a throw-in coming up for the Toronto Blizzard. And it comes to Clyde Best. They'll try and move on Matthew, who just tackles it over the line.
At halftime, they brought out a squeegee vacuum cleaner type machine. They ran it up and down the 35, midfield, and the goal area, but I don't think it did much good because this rain is really piling up now in certain spots on the field.
Here's Clyde Best putting it into the box over Jomo Sono's head, and it'll be a goal kick coming up for the Chicago Stings. 1-0 Chicago leads. Wednesday night NASL soccer continues on the USA Network right after this message.
Adventure, romance, fantasy, the stars we know and love to see. We're taking the movies to America. So settle in your easy chair. The movie channel will be there. Taking the movies to America.
The Movie Channel. All movies 24 hours a day. For great movies round the clock, ask for The Movie Channel by name.
We're taking the movies.
For more information, call your cable TV company.
This is the oil that saves you gas. And this is a new...
Coach has to set an example, so he's the only one without a hat on the bench. Everybody else covered from head to toe except Keith Duddy, the man in the middle, the head coach of the Toronto Blizzard. His team is trailing by a score of 1-0 with 31:20 remaining in the second half. Jomo Sono now for Toronto, stolen away by France Matthew, but Bruce Wilson comes up with it to Randy Reagan. Reagan, good long ball, but it's broken up by Houston. Reagan comes up with it again. And Reagan also comes up with a foul. No, he does not. That foul will go against Chicago. Charlie Ficus picked it up into the box. Jomo Sono just could not get over to it. He's contending he was obstructed as he went for the ball.
Willie Roy, head coach of Chicago. Last year, it looked like Chicago would certainly go to Soccer Bowl. They were eliminated in the playoffs. And this year, everyone's looking to see them there again. Right now, most people feel that Chicago is tops in the league, but who knows what's going to happen with Phil Parks, and it's a long season, and the Cosmos certainly haven't gotten their game quite together yet.
Chicago coming off a victory against the Cosmos, a very well-deserved victory. Their record now 8-2. They play 2 less games than the Cosmos. Cosmos with a record of 9-3 lead the Eastern Division. Here's a free kick coming up for Chicago, and Karl-Heinz Granitz will be the man to take it. Very, very dangerous on these situations.
All right, he's definitely going for the net on this one.
Left foot kicker, Granitza hooks it right into the arms of Tony Chersky. Got it over the wall, but right to Chersky.
Watch to see if you can see how he hits this ball. Just to the outside left, puts that spin on it, rips it around the wall, and good anticipation by Chersky. Definitely an experienced goalkeeper.
Here's Jomo Sono. Good ball to Bruce Wilson. He's winging it in, tries to fire, and it goes wide. Jomo Sono collaborating with Bruce Wilson, but Wilson just tipped that ball, dribbled it just a little bit too far in front of himself, and by the time he came up with it, it was a bad angle.
Great pass here. I think Wilson hits it with the wrong foot. Let's check it out. Sono comes in, leads Wilson outside of his left foot. He just missed it. I would have liked to see him go with his right, maybe shoot it right away.
It was Jomo Sono who set it up oh so beautifully. Here's Wilson again.
He had that open space going right to the net, and instead he wound up going away from the net towards the goal line. Split second, but it was precious time.
Perfect analysis, Alan. Here's the shot by Houston, and he fires it wide. So Chicago comes back quickly and comes mighty close right there with 28 minutes and 44 seconds remaining. The clock is stopped as the ball is chased down. There is David Houston, number 16, a native of the Channel Islands.
Oh, we've got some substitutions coming up here for Chicago. Spaulding is out. It looks like number 23, Brett Hall, will check in. And then I also see Steve Long getting ready to check in. Long doing a lot of fill-in work for Chicago.
So Derek Spaulding, who has the only goal of the game.
And Ficus will sit down, and Ficus is going right to the locker room.
There is Derek Spaulding on the sidelines, the author of the game's only goal thus far, and he takes a seat on the bench. And there's Brett Hall, number 23, playing the ball for the first time tonight. Hall, one of the Americans on this Chicago team. That makes 6 of them they have out there now. Brett Hall, 5'7", 148 pounds, wears number 23 in the lineup for the Chicago Sting.
Well, we got to check that total. Ficus and Spaulding went out. They lost 2. That gave them 3. And then they added 2. So that's 5.
That's 5.
Okay.
Okay.
They're back where they started.
Sam Lenarduzzi putting it into the box. And the shot sails wide. Gogo Tekin.
Well, we have a break here. Let me tell you that tomorrow night's edition of Thursday Night Baseball will match a pair of American League Western Division rivals. At 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, USA will bring you all the action as the Texas Rangers host the Minnesota Twins in Arlington. There should be plenty of hitting in this one with the likes of Roy Smalley, Mickey Rivers, and Al Oliver. Please check your local listings for availability of Thursday Night Baseball on the USA Network in your area. And, of course, everyone keeping a close eye on that strike situation. And, of course, USA will be keeping up to date with developments on that.
Bruce Wilson now, Steve Long, and the other substitution in the game, Brett Hall, both attended Wheaton College, although Brett Hall started his collegiate career at Slippery Rock State in Pennsylvania before transferring over to Wheaton. And any American football fan knows about Slippery Rock. Everybody gives a Slippery Rock score. Here's Bruce Wilson now to Velasquez. And that'll be an obstruction foul, that time on Rudy Glenn of Chicago.
This is becoming a very interesting game here because it's really a one-goal game. Toronto's pressing. Wilson could have tied the game there, and then we have about 25 minutes where either team could pull it out.
Here is Bruce Wilson. Into the box, the header hits off the crossbar and over. Oh, Bruce Wilson came close, and the ball was headed up in the air, I believe, by Colin Franks right in front. Wednesday night NASL soccer will continue on the USA Network right after this message. Matthew.
There's a good angle on that free kick by Bruce Wilson. Our cameras put you right on the field, and you saw what a tremendous curve that ball had right inside the box.
Here is Bonaparti. Clyde Best heads it up into the air. Joe Mosono was there, but it's batted back, and Rudy Glenn gets it out of harm's way. Rudy Glenn, number 8. Toronto has controlled the play here in the second half. We played 20 minutes of the second half. We have 25-22 remaining in the second half. And Toronto on the move once again. Joe Mosono calling for the foul that did not come. Bruce Wilson coming oh so close to tying this game up.
Well, you're on the field for this one. Tremendous spin on the ball. Comes in front. Coffey sets. Oh, and it misses by about 3 inches.
Hits the crossbar and bounds over. And it stays a 1-0 game in favor of the Chicago Sting with 24 minutes, 24 seconds remaining.
Well, one thing I like is that it seems that Toronto is beginning to utilize both Best and Velasquez inside the box for their height, and only for their height. And that time, it almost paid off.
Well, Gordon Sweetzer's addition into the lineup. Sweetser makes things happen, has made a couple of things happen. And in the second half, as you mentioned, Alan, in the first half, of Bruce Wilson. Bad ball there, very, very dangerous. And finally played by Lenarduzzi. Lenarduzzi very, very tentative here in the second half. But as you mentioned in the first half, Bruce Wilson getting all that room. And in the second half, Toronto is utilizing it.
Well, now look, Wilson's all the way up at the 18 as Toronto moves upfield. There's only 2 defenders back for Toronto, so maybe they're hesitating a little bit. It's a situation they haven't been in. They have to communicate back there. And earlier, when Leonard Uzi passed it all the way back to the keeper, Chersky, he was just playing it safe. And that was about it. But still, they would have whistled him out of the stadium.
He had nobody back there helping him at all, as Bruce Wilson is, to all intents and purposes, become a forward here in the second half. He is very, very much on the offense.
Well, that's all part of the concept of total soccer. You know, you play what position you have to when you have to. And that's that Weisweiler concept, that Rinus Michels concept, where it doesn't make a difference where you start the game. But if you're needed defensively, well, you better get back. And if you're needed up front, then you better get up there. And even if you have to make a save when you have to, you should be able to do it.
Bruce Wilson with that talented left foot that has been very accurate here in the second half. Another corner kick for Toronto. Their 7th corner kick of the contest. And Wilson taking his time and teeing it up. Putting it, hooking beautifully into the box. Best was there, but it's cleared out. And it's played by Chicago. So Chicago on the move now. They lead it by a score of 1-0, and they're past midfield for one of the few times in this second half. Here's Karl-Heinz Granitza. Granitza looking into the box. Feeds it in, and Velasquez puts it over the line. It'll be a corner coming up for the Chicago Sting. Jose Velasquez, who is coming back from knee surgery.
A tremendous transition by Chicago. Next week, a pair of NASL division contenders will be in the spotlight on the edition of Wednesday Night NASL Soccer starting at 10:30 Eastern Time. We'll bring you all the live action from Portland as the Timbers host the Minnesota Kicks. It shapes up as a good one, and we'll have the action for you right here on the same USA Network systems.
That is next Wednesday night. So here is Tony Chersky for Toronto. His team trails 1-0 on a penalty kick at 38-32 by Derek Spalding. Late in the first half. Houston goes for it along with Sweetser, and the foul will be on Houston. So it'll be an indirect free kick coming up for Toronto. There is David Houston, number 16. And we await the ball. Here is Bruce Wilson. Wilson just looking to cross it into the box and make something happen. And he's made things happen. Looking for Jomo Sono. But it's headed out nicely, this time by Brett Hall. And over the line it goes. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto.
Well, Velasquez trying the volley, or it might have been a half volley. Either way, hit it off the outside of his right foot way wide. And Chicago will be putting it in deep in their own zone. So Toronto will be pushing up, trying to take the ball away, as they've been doing a good job of that so far in the second half.
Ingo Peter on the throw-in. And Leonard Doozy gets it on the half volley. Chicago on the move now. This is Rudy Glenn. And a good defensive play that time by Velasquez. Chicago has not had many opportunities here in the second half, but what the situation is in the second half, anytime they're going to get deep, if they break down on a lost ball by Toronto, they're going to have a good opportunity like Steve Long had that time.
I think because they're a faster team and they know how to, the transition again, all important. The great teams know how to go from defense to offense in a split second. And everyone's role changes automatically. As soon as they get the ball, you're a forward.
Here is Bruce Wilson now for Toronto with 20 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Wilson, the Randy Reagan. This is Sam Lenarduzzi. Intended for Clyde Best. Teakin chasing it down, and Teakin taking Franz Matthew down, and Teakin will pick up the foul, and Franz Matthew adjusts the sock and gets ready to get up off the artificial surface.
Well, Franz hasn't been able to use his speedy skills so far in the match. That time almost, but Mr. Teakin was not going to let him do that. You know, sports is such a strange thing sometimes, and I don't think they'll be able to explain a number of things, among them how a team can be so terrible at one point and then drastically different the next. I guess there are so many factors involved, psychological, physical, weather, but Toronto is a different team in the second half.
They are playing offensively, they're taking chances, and thus far it has not hurt them. And against a team like Chicago, it can happen so suddenly. with the likes of Karl-Heinz Granitza and Arno Steffenhagen, Ingo Peter. Here is Sweetser to Reagan. Reagan crosses it back. Nobody there. Here's Bruce Wilson chasing it down now for Toronto. Wilson with that talented left foot to Sweetser in the box, headed up into the air. Nicely by Milekovic. Here's Colin Franks. Franks puts it into the box. The shot by Sweetser scores! Colin Franks, the Gordon, Sweetser, and we are all tied up at 1-1. Beautiful goal of Sweetser, controlled it, and let's put it at home.
Well, there's one move that made this play, and the rest was simply academic. It's going to come down the left side of the box. It's going to be a fake shot. Wilson will put the ball in play, and we'll pick it up from here. Almost cleared out by Chicago, but they're having trouble clearing it here. Watch this move. Fake the shot, cut left. Now he's got some open space. Back inside. There it is. Great fake by Franks.
And it started with this kick by Bruce Wilson.
And, of course, Keith Eddy looks like a genius now. His substitution of Gordon Sweetser coming on to score the equalizer. 18 minutes left. Coffey made a valiant effort, but that was just a good shot and a good play by Toronto.
So we've got a 1-1 game now, and here comes Toronto once again. Randy Reagan getting it ahead to Jomo Sono. Sono at midfield. Long ball. Up into the air, Lenarduzzi puts it off the head. Lenarduzzi has it again, and the foul, that time on Velasquez of Toronto with 17.5 remaining. We're tied now at 1-1.
Sweetser's first goal from Franks, unofficially this is, and I think it came in the 69th minute.
The clock ticking down, 17:20 remaining. Both goal scorers tonight, proven goal scorers, but for both of them, their first goals of the season. Sweetser had 5 last year. We mentioned Spalding had 13 in his first 3 years with Chicago. And they both get their first of the night. There's number 14, Gordon Sweetser, who replaced Julius Sono at the start of the second half, and he comes up with a tying goal. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto with 16:50 remaining.
Not playing like he has an injured thigh, is he?
Wednesday night NASL soccer will continue on the USA Network right after this message.
Inside.
At Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, Canada, the Blizzard and the Chicago Sting are all tied at 1-1 in a game played in a continuing rain. A rain that has not let up for one moment. In fact, it has gotten hotter as the evening has progressed, and Bruce Wilson, another one of those crosses into the box, out of front, score! Wilson did it again. He set it up for Toronto, leads it now by a score of 2-1. Gungo Deacon, he's a happy young man. He picked up the foul, which led to the penalty shot there by Derek Spalding in the first half, and justice has been served as far as he's concerned because he has put Toronto in front 2-1.
I'm getting a deja vu with all these kicks that Wilson is taking. It comes in front. Coffey commits himself to the post dive, tries to return, loose in front, and Toronto has taken this game away from Chicago. What a great performance by Gungo Ortikin, who scores the goal, his second of the season. He has marked Karl-Heinz Granitza out of the game and now scores the go-ahead goal for Toronto. So he's doing it at both ends of the field. There he is, the Turkish sweeper, Gungo Ortikin.
And it is now 2-1 in favor of Toronto. The Blizzard coming back and taking the lead for the first time this evening. Now the question is, can they hold on? Here's Velasquez. Velasquez with a beautiful move. Tries to put it in front, but it is cleared out by Steve Long. Here's Bruce Wilson. Perhaps the style changing a bit. We've seen Wilson down about at the 18-yard line, just at the right part of your screen throughout the second half. And now Wilson reverts back to the more conservative posture of playing near midfield. And why not? His team now leads it by a score of 2-1. It is time to think more defense than offense.
70 minutes without scoring, and then they put 2 in inside of 3 minutes. 74-52 the time. Wilson and Sono get the assist, so Sono deflected it in front, taking the second goal of the season.
And both goals set up by crossing free kicks off the left foot of Bruce Wilson. Wilson getting the assist on this one. Jomo Sono also, because it deflected off Sono's head as it came right in front.
Now let's see if, as we did last week, Toronto will attempt to sit on this 2-1 lead. Why they would want to do this against Chicago, I have no idea. But the psyche of this game, again, will never be understood. Toronto has just been superb in the second half, really taking it to Chicago. Chicago has lost anything they had in the first half. Everything Chicago was doing right in the first half, Toronto is now doing.
Well, the rain continues to fall, and Toronto holds on to that 2-1 lead. And for our local systems, we'll pause now. You're watching Chicago and Toronto on the USA Network. Twelve and a half minutes remaining in regulation time, 2-1. The Toronto Blizzard leading it on Gungo Tikin's goal at 74-52.
Well, the fans here in Toronto so fickle, really coming down on Toronto after their 5-0 loss in their last game to Montreal. Should they beat Chicago, they'd be sitting up again and taking notice.
A victory here for Toronto would make them 4-7. And with the should they wind up with 2 goals, the 8 points they get gives them 39. Still 9 behind Montreal. Chicago is on the attack. They trail by a score of 2-1, and a foul off the ball, and a yellow card is being handed out. The yellow card given, I believe, to Arno Steffenhagen of the Chicago Sting.
That is right. Second yellow card of the game for Chicago. Tikin had one for Toronto.
Tikin's came just moments after he was called for the foul, which led to Spaulding's goal. And look at that rain coming down. You see the light stanchion, and it's kind of difficult to see through all that rain. Bruce Wilson down on the field as he has been injured. And, of course, this game being played on artificial turf. His right leg, Wilson is up, he is okay. The left leg is the one that has done the damage tonight to Chicago. Number 2, Bruce Wilson, who holds the North American Soccer League record for consecutive games at 161.
I think that was a let's catch our breath, boys, injury.
Wilson is all right. He is up. And 11 and a half minutes remain in regulation time. Toronto leads it by a score of 2-1, and Bruce Wilson has the ball. Dribbles it ahead to midfield through a puddle. Taken back now by Ingo Peter of Chicago, who loses to Velasquez at the 35. Gives to Clyde Best. Best comes out. Coffey way out of the net. Best is taken down. No whistle, and finally it is put over the line.
Well, the people here really think that that's a penalty kick. Well, we'll let you put a whistle in your mouth. Would you have blown it on this particular play? I don't think so.
And Paul Coffey is down and apparently injured. There is Willie Roy on the sidelines for Chicago. Phil Parks is not with the Chicago team. He did not make this trip. And there is Coffey being administered to by the trainer Jerry Carter, who had been the trainer for the Memphis Rogues for the past 3 years. Memphis, of course, now relocated to Calgary.
Paul Coffey out of San Jose State. Reading his bio earlier, he's into surfing and all those beach activities. What he's doing on the shores of Lake Michigan, I have no idea. He's played a great game so far. I think he's had a lot of poise. He's grabbed onto the ball. Both goals were good goals by Toronto. They were not, I don't think, any mistake of his. There's still plenty of time left, as you can see, for Chicago to turn this game around. They have a lineup that can really do just about anything they want. Coffey's okay. I really don't think that that was a penalty kick foul earlier. It was a good tackle. The ball was there, and the tackle knocked the ball away, which is what a tackle's supposed to do.
Here is Paul Coffey. Seems to be all right, and he has the ball now. And he'll start things up for the Chicago Sting to Greg Ryan, number 3. Mark Simonton, number 11, now on the lineup for Chicago. So they have used all 3 of their substitutes in this contest. Houston trying to get it to Ingo Peter, but it's taken away by the Toronto defense. Velasquez losing control. Karl-Heinz Granitza comes up with it, but it's taken away by Velasquez again. Chicago trying to put on some pressure here. Randy Reagan has it ahead to Best, but it's taken away by Franz Matthew, and that pass just dies in a puddle. 10 minutes and 5 seconds remaining. Bruce Wilson chasing it down. And there is number 11, Mark Simonton, into the lineup for the Chicago Sting. Second-round draft pick in 1980 out of Indiana University. And in his second season with the Chicago Sting. He has started 3 games this year. Greg Ryan will throw it in. Mielkovic, number 2. Here's Granitza. And taken away beautifully by Bruce Wilson. Granitza looks at the referee and says, no foul, should have been. Here is Sono. Jomo, good ball to Velasquez. Sono cuts to the middle, looks for the return and gets it. Jomo makes the move. He is coming in as he got around Brett Hall, puts it into the box. Nobody there. He'll shot the score. Sweeper. Gordon Sweeper put it home as Sono put it in front. Mielkovic had an opportunity to take it away. He was there all alone. He lost control and went right into the foot of Sweetser. He did not miss. It is now 3-1 Toronto.
This is a very crucial defensive mistake by Chicago in front. Toronto outmanned 2-1. Sono in front, 1-2, let it slide through, goal. And it's 3-1. Toronto coming back really strong here, but they should not have gotten this goal. But what a great play by Sono, eluding one defender and then getting a good cross in front that somehow made its way through the 4-leg maze of the Sting defense, beating Paul Coffey. And that goal coming with only 9:04 remaining in the match. So Sono will undoubtedly get the assist, and Sweetser comes in and gets goal number 1 and 2 on the season, and Keith Eddy looks more of a genius every time he takes a shot.
Gets the tying goal, what appears to be the insurance goal. As that time, the defense, Mielkovic and Matthew, it seemed to be a case as the ball dropped in front of Mielkovic, who had originally stopped it, of not knowing who was going to clear the ball away. You take it. No, you take it. Well, Sweetser said, I will, and he did. And it is now 3-1 with 8:25 remaining.
Toronto's played now. This is their 3rd match in 6 days. And if you were going to take a guess, you'd say they're going to come out in the first half, give it all they've got, and hope for the best, and possibly, the games would catch up with them in the second half. It's been exactly the opposite, and I think they've shown a tremendous amount of character in coming back. We came down on them hard in the first half, at least I did, because they just weren't playing well. And now the second half, they've really done well.
And they are leading it by a score of 3-1. Mielkovic goes for it. Clyde Best comes back to help out, gets it over to Randy Reagan. Reagan and Franz Matthew chase. Good sliding tackle by Matthew to take it away, number 7. And over the line it goes. It'll be a throw-in coming up for Toronto. 7 minutes and 48 seconds remaining.
The official time, 80:51. Sono and Velasquez. Sweetser the goal, and it's funny, the PR assistant who they have here runs down the hallway as he's coming to bring us the goal, and you can feel the whole floor shake, and you know you're about to get the official scoring when you feel the earthquake.
Here is Sono backheeling it nicely to Velasquez. Velasquez makes the move around Brett Hall, comes into the box. Matthew tackles it away. Ball is loose, and it comes out to Bruce Wilson. Wilson to Randy Reagan. 7:19 remaining. Reagan crosses into the box. Sweetser is there looking for it, and we get a foul.
No, it's offside.
Offside is the call on the Toronto Blizzard with 7:05 remaining.
Well, the turf is wet, the ball is wet, everything is wet, and unfortunately, I said a defensive mistake earlier. Really, that's the type of thing the ball is going to do in a game like this. We've been talking about the weather conditions, and things like that happen in weather conditions like this.
So an upset in the making here with 6:45 remaining. Chicago, lengthiest win streak in the team's history, 7. They had 6 coming into tonight's contest. They led 1-0 at the end of the half. Toronto, at this point, according to North American Soccer League rules, you get 6 points for a victory and up to 3 points, 1 for each goal you score up until 3. So that's the most you can get, 9 points in a game. And at this point, they are going to take home tonight. Chicago, with 1 point, will have 69 points, still way out in front of second place Tulsa in the Central Division. Charlie Mitchell's team still continues to play well with a record of 5-4.
And what is Chicago thinking at this particular point? They really had a firm hold on the momentum, the control of the ball, and the game. Came out of the locker room and gave it away.
18 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, and Chicago still had the lead at 1-0. And then this gentleman, number 14, Gordon Sweetser, went to work with his first goal of the season at 71-10. Teakin put Toronto out in front 2-1 with a beautiful header at 74-52, and then Sweetser at 80-56.
Some of the nation's best collegiate track and field stars will be in action this Friday as USA Network presents the annual NAIA Track and Field Championships from Houston, Texas. Among the top names, pole vault champion Brad Pursley and 800-meter specialist Joel Nagedich. USA's coverage starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The NAIA, another top track meet brought to you by the USA Network.
Here is Jomo Sono.
We're going to take a quick look here, or in just a moment, of how not to stop a ball. This is out of the how not to stop a ball category.
Ooh. That's smart.
Oh, that's got to really hurt. Not to make light of it. That has really got to hurt.
5 minutes and 14 seconds remaining. The Chicago Sting trailing the Toronto Blizzard by a score of 3-1. Chicago still on the attack. Lenarduzzi puts it over the line, and it'll be a goal kick coming up for Toronto as it was deflected off a Chicago player. Greg Ryan, number 3.
And how much does that have to hurt when you figure players can shoot the ball 85, 90 miles an hour? Not in this kind of conditions. Maybe 35 or 40. The ball is rock hard. I don't want anything hitting me in my face rock hard at 35 miles an hour.
France Matthew heads it to Houston. Clive Best chasing it down now, showing a good effort there. Was Best. Here's Sweetser. He has 2 goals here in the second half. De Velasquez at the 35. Jomo Sono broken up nicely by Brett Hall, number 23. And Bonaparte, number 21 for Toronto, feeding it ahead. Long ball now to Sono. Jomo catches up to it. Tries to put it into the box, and that's an offside. A definite offside. Sweetser way ahead of that play with 3:59 remaining.
Well, it certainly looks like the Sting will fall short of tying the team record of 7 straight wins. They came into this game winning 6 in a row. You never like to lose, but I think for any team, especially a team that's really hot, a loss once in a while is certainly good. It brings you back to reality. It makes you go back to fundamentals and look at a game that you lost and said, okay, we didn't do this the way we did in the past 6 games in which we won.
And they have played so well throughout that 6-game winning streak.
Oh. Cosmos, Minnesota, Seattle.
On the season, Chicago with 26 goals scored, and they've given up only 11 in 10 games. Tonight, they give up 3 to the Toronto Blizzard, a team that had scored only 13 in its first 10 games.
We got a substitution for Toronto. Number 21 for Toronto coming out of the lineup is Gianpaolo Bonaparte on loan from Juventus of Italy. Entering the match, number 19, Graham Hatley. And we already have the 3 stars of this match. Gordon Sweetser coming off the bench in the second half. Bruce Wilson, who did all those great direct kick feeds inside the box, and Jomo Sono.
And there's Chersky with a diving save on a ball that was ticketed to the side of the post. 3 minutes even remaining. It is 3-1 in favor of Toronto.
Chersky hasn't had to make a save the whole second half.
No, it has been all Toronto in the second half. And you talk about a Chicago team with all that offensive firepower. There's the offside call. Clyde Best elects to say, I do not hear that whistle, because Brett Hall, number 23, was back there. Therefore, how could it be offside? But it was.
Clyde thought it was coming from the crowd. The whistle, Clyde. Stop the game.
Randy Reagan. And Chicago.
It's under 2.5 now. Really academic. I really don't even think Chicago could do the 360 that this game needs to bring them back into the game. Although the turf is wet, the ball is wet, and really anything can happen.
Here's Bruce Wilson just tipping it back to goalkeeper Tony Chersky with 2 minutes and 8 seconds remaining. Through it all, Sweetser gets the first star. But I'll tell you, Bruce Wilson, the efforts he made in that second half, setting up the goals, just incredible. And I'm sure Gordon Sweetser's going to shake his hand and say thanks.
That's for sure.
Here's Clyde Best. Has a little bit of room, puts it into the box, but nobody is there. Only person there was a Chicago player, Steve Long, and he let it just go right through. Here's Velasquez, chased by Steve Long, and Long keeps it in play. Comes to Bruce Wilson. Velasquez, and a bad ball, and it'll be a throw-in coming up for Chicago. 80 seconds remaining, a minute 20, 3-1. Toronto out in front. Jomo Sono picks up that very obvious foul against Franz Matthew. And there you see the problem perhaps with the turf, as Arno Steffenhagen was just unable to control that ball on his own dribble.
Well, so much for the questions of whether Toronto is in condition or not. This has certainly dispelled those rumors. They are really running until the final whistle. They're not letting Chicago have any room whatsoever. This is Toronto's game. It's signed and sealed.
And you see the clock ticking down in the upper right-hand portion of your screen at home. It is 3-1 in favor of the Blizzard. And they are on their way to their 4th victory of the season against 7 defeats. Chicago will absorb its 3rd loss. They have won 8. That's the same amount of losses as the Cosmos, who are representatives and leaders in the Eastern Division. And Chicago with 1 less victory, they played 1 less game. Here's Randy Reagan with 17 seconds remaining. A big night for Toronto's Blizzard. And Keith Eddy, the coach, despite being without 4 starters, Malcolm Robertson, Jimmy Greenhoff, Luigi Martini, and Gordon Wallace, the clock ticks down 2-1. That is it. It is all over. The Toronto Blizzard have come through with a 3-1 victory. And there is Tony Chersky being congratulated by defender Bruce Wilson, who came up with 2 big assists tonight. Actually, only 1 officially. But he did most definitely help set up that first goal that was scored by Gordon Sweetser. Tony Chersky getting a handshake from Chicago Sting's Brett Hall. The final score, the Toronto Blizzard 3, the Chicago Sting 1, and we'll be back at Toronto's Exhibition Stadium right after this.
Back here at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, time to tell you about some exclusive coverage of USA, coverage of one of the year's best tennis events, the 400,000. Bruce Wilson, one of, it seemed like a trillion direct free kicks coming inside the penalty area, deflected up in the air. It will come down, and it will come back outside. Settled down by Sweetser, who was inserted into the game in the second half by Keith Eddy, Toronto coach. He'll spin, fire, and beat Paul Coffey, who had an excellent match. Not particularly on that goal, and Toronto was out and equalized 1-1.
And Colin Franks is the man who, after Wilson's kick, set it up and put it on Sweetser's foot. And then it was Bruce Wilson again. He was everywhere, seemed to be in the same spot about the 18, just lofting that ball with his left foot and making things happen.
Well, prior to the game, we spoke time and time again of Karl-Heinz Granitza of Chicago. Gungur Tikin, the defender of Toronto, did such a super job in deflecting and keeping Granitza off the ball. Here, he relinquishes himself completely at one end of the field and then the other. Time 74-52, Wilson and Sono the assists, and Toronto was on top to stay 2-1.
So 2 goals within a span of about 3 minutes, and Toronto had the lead at 2-1. And then the always exciting Jomo Sono made things happen for the Toronto Blizzard in helping to set up goal number 3, the insurance goal, and it was Mr. Sweetser, who, the substitute, who has set it up once again. Joe Sono started this, getting the ball to Velasquez.
Who would have thought when Sweetser came in, he was a probable with a thigh injury. He would come in and score 2 goals and eventually be the #1 star of the game. Sono continuing, going around everybody, weaving, going to the goal line, sending it in front. 2 Chicago defenders unable to stop the ball. It slithers through, and that's the 3rd goal for Toronto. That's where we finish at 3-1.
And an exciting finish for the crowd here who braved the elements because the rain did not stop coming down throughout the evening, and credit going to Keith Eddy and his Toronto Blizzard team because they truly deserve this victory tonight, Alan.
I tell you, I spoke to Keith before the game. He seemed down. I said, you feel down? I really feel like the team can do it. He said, I'm just a little upset that when we almost had it, we lost it to the injuries. And I'm happy to see Keith win. A great team like Chicago can always stand a loss like this, and they can take an 8-3 record.
Okay, so the final score once again, the Toronto Blizzard 3, the Chicago Sting 1. Tonight's match has been brought to you in part by Miller High Life. If you've got the time, we've got the beer. And by Mobil 1, the oil that saves you gas and more. Don't forget, next weekend's edition of USA's Wednesday night NASL soccer comes from the Portland Civic Stadium in Portland, Oregon, where the very rough, improved Portland Timbers take on the Minnesota Kicks. Game time is 10:30 p.m. Eastern right here on the USA Network. So for Al Troutwig, this is Spencer Ross saying good night from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.